Hello, everybody. It's so great to be here with you. I've been looking at those very kind thumbs up and reactions that people are sending. Maybe it helps with the algorithm, maybe it doesn't, but we have an expert here today, David Lisowsky, who's going to reveal every secret in the world with digital marketing. Hi, David.
Hey, Louis, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
I,
Thanks so much.
I can't promise I'm going to reveal every secret. I don't know exactly how the like buttons contribute to algorithm push, but I can help with some other
We'll
stuff.
give it a try. That's great. So for everybody who's on the call, the background, David and I have met because we were working together on a course that the Donor Participation Project is putting on. It's called Level Up Your Gaming Fundraising, and it's happening in September. And I'll share the link to that in a moment. And David, you took the charge with marketing, especially digital marketing. And I'm going to share later on how impressed I've been. But David, would you like to speak about your background, and how we connected?
Sure. So my name is David Lisowsky. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can visit my website, regroupmedia.ca. I have a background in digital marketing. It's really my passion, which is sort of what propelled me to this level. I spend every minute learning everything I can about digital marketing. I work with nonprofits primarily, as well as a couple for-profit businesses and foundations. I'm really into sort of the technical stuff, and I have a background in esports. So in college, I was the president of my esports club. I grew that up pretty big, and
Wow.
somebody connected me with Louis or Luis. So I'm
Depends
terrible
if
with
you're my
names.
mom or my dad.
Somebody with a mutual connection connected me with Louis, and I got started with the Level Up Gaming course. Just from there, I was able to sort of put myself on the marketing
Awesome.
committee, and I got to work with a great group of people. And I think we're doing a pretty good job with promoting this for its first year.
Well, absolutely. So, we have lots of fundraisers on the call today, and what I feel is an underappreciated talent in fundraisers, and I think it's the same in digital marketers, is the love for the craft, like really going deep into what makes things tick, not just kind of being superficial. And that's what I've found in your work for our little project, and I'm sure you apply that when working with others. So the topic of today is digital marketing for nonprofits. We may talk about some opportunities that are available, but first I'd love to know, David, what types of nonprofits do you work with? I know you do some Google Ads work. What does your typical engagement look like?
Sure. So I do quite a few different things for nonprofits. I'm working with sort of a variety of charities. I'm working with a university. I'm working with a couple of like EU-based nonprofits that are more partnerships in the with government.
Okay.
I'm trying not
Interesting.
to reveal too much. And
No,
then
no, of course.
I work with a couple of like agencies doing setup for just like basic conversion tracking, a lot of the more technical stuff. The main services that
Yeah.
I sort of offer are paid ad management, Google Ad Grant management, and then more conversion tracking, Google Analytics setup, remarketing stuff. So when I got into the field, I sort of figured that niching down into sort of technical avenues would be beneficial for me, and it's something that I saw was sort of lacking in the nonprofit space. So that's sort of how I inserted myself into the area. Are you there?
Let me see. Yeah, I think I am, but probably me. Tell us, David, we were on a call organizing this course a couple of weeks ago, and we're saying you were hiring. Tell us about your team, and I'm going to share the link to your firm because, frankly, I'm impressed every which way with what you're building. So I think nonprofit professionals here would love to hear about that.
Yeah, so right now I'm looking for people that are able to have an understanding of both Google Tag Manager, which is a skill that everybody needs right now. Somebody who's
What is
familiar with
that? What is even
um,
that?
so Google Tag Manager is a way for marketing and not necessarily development level people to create custom um, custom actions on the back end of
Hmm.
websites. So I use it mostly for creating
Hmm.
conversion actions in Google Ads, but you can use it for a few other things. You can use it to make sure your website is compliant in all of its tracking and remarketing for it's compliant with advert or privacy policies, and it's in your
Hmm.
local regions. You can use it for installing remarketing pixels, and you can use it for installing basically any piece of code that needs to run on your website without having a developer custom install it. Um,
Okay, so are you
yeah,
saying every nonprofit that's on this call that has a website should have something like this installed?
yeah. So if I was going to give advice to people on the call, you need to do three things before the end of this call. Okay, you need to make
Oh,
sure that your
what? Now?
remarketing
Wait.
right
I'm writing this down. Okay,
right
start
right
again.
after this call. So don't keep watching, but right after, you need to install remarketing pixels for every channel that you think you might want to advertise on in the future. So that's probably Facebook. There's a good chance it's LinkedIn. And then you want to make sure you have your Google Analytics and Google Ads remarketing pixels installed on your site, or even better, on your site through your Google Tag Manager. Sounds
What is a
complicated.
remarketing pixel? I'm sorry, I'm such a doofus with all of this.
So I get too technical, and it's sometimes it goes over people's heads.
For the dummies.
It's
Like
really
me.
not that difficult. Anybody can do this. It takes a little bit of time to get set up, or you can hire a service, which is why I'm in business, because people don't like doing it. So a remarketing pixel is a little bit of code that tells a
Okay.
host website like Facebook that a certain user was on your site, and then if you set up an ad in, let's say, Facebook, you can show an ad to that user that visited your site so they can re-engage with your brand in some meaningful way, right? So
Hmm.
let's say a new person that's interested in donating lands on your, donation, the donation section of your website. What you'll then be able to do is show them information related to why they should donate on Facebook. But if you also have a remarketing pixel set up for Google/YouTube, then you can send them a video showing them all of the cool stuff you do and how your donation helps. So you can
Oh
sort of,
my
yeah.
goodness, you're doing the same thing for the course. You're giving away all your secrets.
Oh, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that.
No,
Um,
this is so helpful. Okay, so I'm going to share, David, my experience working with other digital marketing professionals, really good people. I mean, fantastic. But what tends to happen is, I'm in a nonprofit and I'm the annual fund, the director, whatever my fundraising role is, and I think, oh my goodness, it's November. We need to do some digital marketing thingy magiggy before the end of the year. Are you saying that's too late to install this remarketing pixel? Is that what you're saying?
so with the remarketing pixel stuff, it's important that you get set up as early as possible, because the way
Hmm.
it works is you start collecting a big group, a big audience of people that have interacted with your website or your brand in the past. Um,
Okay.
but that doesn't start collecting, it doesn't start accumulating until you've set it up properly. So
Uh-huh.
depending on how big your nonprofit is, how much traffic you're getting on your site, how much engagement you're getting, you can set
Hmm.
something up pretty quickly, right? Within a couple of weeks. But if you're a smaller nonprofit and you only have, maybe less than 100 people coming to your website a month, and you're not spending money on paid advertising to increase the traffic, you
Hmm.
need to be setting that up as early as possible. So just the organic traffic that passively comes in can grow, and then you can start
Okay.
reaching.
So this is like a list of people who are interested in your nonprofit. You may not necessarily know who they are, but Google does, right? And they're keeping a list for you.
Exactly. Their data
Okay.
is now hidden due to sort of privacy policies that have been implemented by Google. You can't see who they are. They're sort of an aggregated group, but they are super specifically people that you choose that come onto your website that you sort of select as people that you're interested in, right? That's the really cool thing, because this is warm traffic. These are people that already have interacted with your brand. They want to know more from you, right? They saw something initially that made you want to click on and see more of what you're doing. It would be silly for you to not take advantage of these people. It's like if you have a lead for a donor and you don't call them. They're right there. They want to learn more from you, and you don't interact with them anymore.
Okay, so there's an expression, David, in fundraising that I kind of hate, because fundraisers, what they do is they get in a room around the table and then they start talking about low-hanging fruit. That's all fundraisers ever do.
Yeah.
So this does feel kind of like it's low-ish hanging.
There's types of marketing that is super low hanging, and there's types of marketing that is extremely difficult but necessary work. So if you've ever worked with a marketing agency before, they're going to do sort of two types of things for you. If they're going to get you good results, if you worked with a marketing agency and they've gotten you really, really good results, what they've done is they've set up brand search campaigns for you, which is anytime somebody Googles for your brand name, then they're going to show an ad to you. Now, those are good, but that's just harvesting people that were somewhat interested in your brand already, right?
I mean, and wouldn't they have like clicked on the first search result in Google and found you no matter what?
Exactly. Now, there is reason to use those types of campaigns. You can super target your message to the person that's coming in. You can send them a lot of other cool like links and information to sort of tailor the experience and the pitch to them. So those brand search campaigns are good, but it's just harvesting work that you've done before, right? They're already at the end of their customer journey, and you're just showing them, like pushing them past the finish line.
Okay.
The second type of campaign that's sort of converting warm traffic is the remarketing stuff, right? So showing ads to people who have already interacted with your brand in a preferable way. You're just harvesting that demand again. You're harvesting existing people that want to work with you, and then you're turning them into donors or customers. If you've worked with a search, or if you've worked with paid advertising before and you've gotten horrible results, it's probably because you're starting from zero.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what tends to happen. And let's go into some questions, David. But I find that that's what tends to happen. You hire somebody the moment you want the ads to start running, and what you're telling us today is that that's probably too late. So Jen Cherney is a fantastic DPP member. She's asking, how expensive is this to do? I think she wrote specifically about the remarketing pixel, but I think that's a good question. What would you say?
So setting up remarketing, if you want to do it yourself, is 100% free. The time expense to learn how to do everything properly, to make sure that if everything isn't installed correctly, the data that you're collecting isn't worth much. So really the cost is in the time expense. There are freelancers that'll do it for you for a couple $100. I charge a little bit more than that, but I give you sort of a more premium experience. I make sure that everything is set up so you can hyper select the audience that you want to target. And then we make sure that we're able to target them with, high quality ads, use like cross channel stuff. And then all of the remarketing pixels that you need to set up are set up. So if you want a sort of a lower tier service, just get one or two things done, and you understand what needs to be done, then you can go to Fiverr or Upwork, or you can hire like a freelancer for a couple $100. If you want sort of a more fully set up solution, it'll maybe cost you $1,000 or so.
Okay, so quite frankly, very achievable, especially if you think of the return that you're going to get on this. Jenny Carino. I don't know why the names aren't showing on the screen today, but Jenny is also a fantastic DPP member. Jenny, we love you. She's asking about omni-channel presence. Thoughts on that, David? Do you have any thoughts about mail and digital and everything else?
When I hear omni-channel presence, I think of more omni-channel remarketing. I don't know if this comment is talking about more of like a holistic out of home, organic, paid.
Mhm.
But maybe I can touch on both. So
Okay.
omni-channel remarketing is really strong. You can advertise to people sort of wherever they are on the internet. If you're using display campaigns, you can advertise on like the local news site that your prospect is visiting. You
Mhm.
can advertise to them on their Gmail, on their Outlook. You can advertise to them on Facebook, LinkedIn, on their Pinterest. If they click on a YouTube video, you're going to be the ad, like the pre-roll ad that shows up and tells them a 5-second message before they click skip. You can be
Yeah.
everywhere on the internet. That's sort of the omni-channel setup that I think
You
of
think
when
of.
yeah,
Yeah.
and those work really well. The problem is they're a little bit expensive to set up. They cost a bit more time. You sort of have to create custom creative that is tailored to the specific context of each platform.
You
But
have
if you
to
can
know
get
what
it
types of videos get clicked on. That takes a lot of knowledge too.
exactly. And the thing about remarketing is you need an audience of 1,000 people in your remarketing lists before you're able to
Huh.
set up
Interesting.
remarketing campaigns. So there is a barrier to
Interesting.
entry, and that's just because of the way privacy works. We don't want to be able to target one individual person. We sort of aggregate 1,000 people, so any ad that we send somebody is also sent to like
Mhm.
possibly 1,000 other people.
Okay.
That's the way it's set
Interesting.
up, but there is that barrier to entry. If you're a big nonprofit, highly recommend the omni-channel stuff. If you're talking about an omni-channel presence in terms of having a more diversified marketing mix with organic, with paid, with different channels, sending mailers and stuff,
Mhm.
I very good. So the way that marketing works, everything compounds as long as you're doing it right. If you have a like it, you really want a strong organic base because that organic base is generally going to be cheaper eyeballs for you to convert cold traffic, people who haven't interacted with your brand before, and you're going to have more of an opportunity to tell your story at length. Whereas when with paid, you're spending sometimes a decent amount of money to send them one really quick message. Now, that quick message can be really good to send somebody back into your funnel to get them to
Mhm.
re-engage with your brand. But
Yeah.
if that's your primary strategy, unless you have a lot of money to burn through or you're working on something like that people really want to engage in, you're going to have a tough time, especially in paid where you're competing directly against the bigger players in the space with huge marketing budgets.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, David.
Yeah,
More. Tell us.
more.
No, no. Okay, sorry. No, no. So, okay. So,
Sure.
imagine let's do role play. Imagine somebody is watching today and says, "Oh my goodness, I want to see David's work. I'm going to go to this site that's on the screen right now because it looks interesting and I think I want to learn about gaming fundraising." Is there a chance that they're going to see an ad somewhere else on the internet afterwards?
Yeah, so if you go to the donor participation project .com/level up gaming, and I think the link
Yeah.
should
It's on
be
the screen.
on the
It's on the
screen
screen.
right now.
Yeah.
If you click on that and then you go to any website that has display advertisements enabled, there's a good chance that you're going to see an ad for the
Of
donor
course.
participation projects level up gaming event. Um, So anywhere on display, if you are lucky enough to see one of our YouTube ads, then there's a good chance you'll also start seeing display remarketing pop up somewhere in your when you click onto different websites with ads enabled.
Yeah.
Now, the way that we have this set up is that we'd be able to do a lot of other cool omni-channel remarketing. Um, But okay, wait.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're gonna see the ad, but the one
Okay.
caveat is if you have cookies disabled in your browser, or
Mhm.
if you're on iOS, I believe it's 15, that automatically disables cookies. so you won't
Mm-hmm.
be able to see those remarketing channels. That's the one
Interesting.
big change where the push towards, user-centric privacy has made it more difficult to remarket to people. So not everybody will see it, and if you don't, that's probably why.
That's so we
Yeah.
want to hear from you. If you actually end up doing that and seeing the ads, give us feedback. How did you feel about it? Was it helpful? Was it not helpful? We're always really interested in those conversations. So I
Excellent.
totally interrupted you, David. You were going through three things, but we have so many comments here that I think it's a good investment of our time to answer these. Paige is asking, how are we marketing to donors? Is there a way to not follow those who have made a donation, as we want them to not feel like they are repeatedly being asked? Okay, so I guess you set this up incorrectly. Somebody actually makes a gift and they still get the remarketing.
Yeah, so what you can do is when somebody clicks on like the donate button, you can set that as a conversion or an event, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can add that person to a custom audience that you can later exclude from your remarketing efforts. So you can say that I want everybody who clicks on the donor page to get an ad that says, "Hey, you forgot about us. There's an important cause that needs support." But if you've already donated, don't send that ad to those people. So there's a lot of cool interplay with how you can create your remarketing audiences, and you can only do remarketing to a very select group of people that have engaged in your website on the ways that you think are beneficial. And then the really cool part is you get to test 100 different groups of people that you think might be good potential donors, or might be like 1 step, 2 step, 3 step on their path to becoming on their basically donor journey. You
Mm-hmm.
just remarket to each of those people and see which one is the best, works best for your specific cause.
Okay, so again, all of this, from what I'm hearing, requires some setup in advance. So maybe, reach out to David and start picking his brain now versus, November 1 or 30.
Yeah, and if
Um,
anybody has questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to just answer basic stuff. And if you're doing cool stuff, I just love to chat with you and meet new people doing great work.
Yes, especially those that are doing like giving days. Like, I'd be interested in just knowing how wide stream this is. How many of you are actually doing digital marketing? I would say, David, how do we qualify? This is paid digital marketing, right? Versus maybe like the organic approach.
Yeah, we just say paid digital marketing. Any form of
Okay.
like paid ads sort of qualifies.
Okay. So, it's so interesting, David, because we talk a lot in the donor participation project about having conversations. And, you just mentioned a while ago, right? You need to have a product, a situation, a community that people want to belong to. But, that's kind of number one. But then after that, you need to bring people in, right? And that's how you do it with paid marketing.
Yeah, so I mean, paid marketing is one aspect of sort of a diversified marketing mix, right? If
Hmm.
you're going to be using cold traffic, there are a lot of steps that you have to walk somebody who's never engaged with your brand through to
Hmm.
actually convince them that you're the nonprofit that's worth, spending time on, spending money on, um, investing emotionally in, right?
There you go.
You can maybe sell ice to a penguin, but you can't market ice to a penguin, right? You need some actual some value behind what you're selling, and you need to convey that value in a genuine way. If
Hmm.
people, it sort of depends on your audience a little bit more, but if you come off as really like salesy and pushy, nobody wants to engage with your ad just because you're the fifth person that has told them that you're gonna save the world in 2 days, and they don't
Yeah.
believe that anymore.
Or, in the context of nonprofits that have like an established base of potential donors, like if you're a university alumni, if you're a healthcare center, patients, if you've asked them 5 times, like, just one more ask is probably not going to be what tips them over. A question from
Yep.
Allison. With a remarketing plan, can you find out how many people are not being reached due to the cookies thing you just mentioned? Thanks, Allison.
Oh boy. Yes. So I think the difference would be how many people you see populate an audience in your Google ads versus how many people populate the same audience that is imported in. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. How many people have been added to an audience list in your Google Analytics audiences? So in your Google Analytics audiences versus how many people have been imported into the platform that you're trying to remarket on. So I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm pretty sure audience members who have cookies disabled and can't be remarketed to will not be added to an audience list on that site. And if for some reason they remove their cookies, they'll be taken out of their out of the audience list on the site that you're trying to advertise to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I tie into like a big question, which is, does this work? And can how can you tell that it works? The numbers, honestly, are kind of, I get a general sense that it's, that it works if you do it well, etc. But I always find that the numbers are very wishy-washy.
Sure. So the first sort of rule of marketing is that you need to be able to track everything you do. The first thing is setting up really good conversion actions. So making sure that anytime somebody, well, it depends on your KPIs as well, but let's say you're going for donations, right?
Okay,
you need to make sure that every time somebody donates $1, that dollar is correctly being attributed to one of your campaigns, right? Now, attribution is a whole problem in and of itself, but if somebody views a YouTube ad and then they go and donate, you need to attribute that dollar to that YouTube ad, and that requires some sort of conversion tracking being in place before you even start the campaign. That's the most important thing. That gets sometimes more difficult if you're working on third-party websites. So if you're
that happened to us, right? In the
that
course.
happened to us. So our fundraising platform our event platform isn't able to track conversions or reroute us to a landing page on our site that shows us when somebody's converted. So that presents like a huge problem. And those situations exist. From there, you just sort of have to work with what you have and run sort of the highest return stuff that you are 90% sure is going to work. And then see if over time, your baseline numbers are increasing. And then you can maybe roughly attribute that. But that's sort of the wishy-washy way to do it. The best option is you have Google automatically track conversions and then attribute to them to a campaign. That's the most important thing. The second thing is if you want stuff to work, or if you want the highest low-hanging fruit, I'm sorry to use that phrase, you want to be using, you want to be using ads to target an already very warm audience. Most of the time, that is the stuff that works really well. If you're targeting cold, you better be an advertising master, and you better have a lot of money to test different things, different strategies. You better have a full omni-channel plan. You better have a really good funnel that can walk somebody through the 50 different reasons why they should work with you.
And maybe let's go out on a limb and assume that for most nonprofits, the most cost-effective way to do that is through organic events, traditional donor relations, community building, etc., right? Versus doing the whole thing with ads, which seems like a heavy lift.
Yeah, really, really good organic community building stuff. finding channels that are going to work for you, are going to scale for you. It depends on the nonprofit. Putting out high quality videos, high quality website content. You can invest in like SEO if you'd like for sort of a longer term strategy. But really the good, solid, best practice, organic stuff is what's going to work for the nonprofits that don't have the massive budget to experiment with cold traffic and then converting that into warm traffic. Now there is one caveat. So Google gives registered nonprofits $10,000 a month to spend on search ads, and it's completely free. So if somebody searches in Google a query related to sort of what you do as a nonprofit, so let's say like food bank near me, you can be the first listing on Google, and you can show that person who searched for that whatever you want. That's a really good strategy for sort of top of funnel cold traffic. And then from that, with paid media or paid ads, you can remarket to those people. And sort of that completes sort of the cold traffic, warm traffic funnel that you're trying to build. And then if you can layer like an organic content strategy on top of that. So let's say you're like a I don't know, a charity that works on disaster relief, something like that, right? So somebody in a disaster-ish situation might be wondering, what do I do if my house gets flooded from a hurricane? Something like that, right? What do I do if a hurricane floods my house? You can specifically work on an organic piece of content that addresses that need. Now that works on a couple of angles, because you can then send that information to all of your social media platforms. You can create a video that talks about that information, right? And you can send that to YouTube and TikTok and whatever. You can put that on your website. So now it's discoverable in organic search, but then you can run search ads on that as well, which when somebody types that specific piece of content, because it's tailored just for those specific people, it'll show up in search when somebody searches for that in the like geolocation that you've targeted. So the really cool stuff you can do.
David, like I'm just going to share with people, like if I wanted to do something like this and it's way past my level of expertise, I'd want somebody like you with your passion and with your knowledge. I mean, I can tell you're kind of obsessed with all of this. Somebody asked in the chat, how do I contact him? And I think he's referring to you. So I put up your website again on the screen, regroupmedia.ca. LinkedIn is probably a good place to reach out to you too.
LinkedIn works. LinkedIn is good. Regroupmedia.ca. You can book a meeting with me right on my website. You can also reach me at my email, which is david@regroupmedia.ca. I'm always looking to help people that want to do great things in the world. And I'd be happy to even just give some pro bono advice if there's like some really easy stuff that we can get fixed.
Awesome. I'm putting your email up on this screen too.
Perfect.
If any other, go ahead.
There's one other thing that I really want to mention. So I just want to emphasize the importance of collecting first-party data from your like web traffic or from people who engage with your nonprofit.
Okay, dummy alert. What does that mean?
So first-party data is data that you collect directly. So it's not through an intermediary. It's not, an audience that you're targeting that like Facebook has created for you. The best first-party data you can get is honestly an email, a phone number. You can get like the first name, last name of your nonprofit. And then really any other information that you think you can use later on to reach this person. So it might be a mail list or like a mailing address if you're doing mailers, or or you have some sort of mail strategy.
First party data is when you know who the person actually is not like those like phantom lists that we said before that Google is tracking and keeping for you.
Exactly. The really cool thing that you can do with that now is, let's say you have a list of 1,000 people, right? Just an email list who have all given you consent. Now, I've talked a lot about data. It's very important that every time you hear me say data, you think, ethical, legal, data collection in the way that the prospect would be okay with you doing, right? You don't want to do anything too suspicious. So let's say you have somebody join your email list and you've mentioned that you're going to use this email to, market to them or send them marketing communications in the future. If you have a list of 1,000 people, you can upload that list into different social media platforms or advertising platforms. And that platform will be able to associate a user who's logged into that platform. So let's say Facebook. If you upload that list to Facebook, even if somebody hasn't interacted with your website or you don't have the remarketing pixel, if somebody's if you upload that email to Facebook and that person has a Facebook, that same email address associated with their Facebook account, you'll be able to target that user on Facebook. So building really strong email lists, really strong CRMs is, again, just another component of an important marketing mix. And everything that you do in terms of marketing can all be reused, it can all be repurposed, and it all sort of builds on itself. I think that's sort of why some smaller nonprofits get caught up. It's because they think they can do one thing that will make their marketing work, but it's literally everything that gets you to where you are, right? It's everything that you build over time and how you reuse it.
Okay, awesome. So go for those remarketing lists for building your own high quality lists. Then do the work in advance to track whether things are working or they aren't. David, I have a question for you. What type of content, you mentioned this a little bit, just do things that are authentic, that don't look too salesy. What type of content works in ads, in things like YouTube ads? What are you seeing out there? Are there any trends, or can you even say?
Let me think. In terms of trying to target sort of donors, it depends on the stage of the sort of donor life cycle that they're on. So there are a few things you might want to consider. If you're going sort of more of a cold traffic approach, you want to sort of let them know who you are, what you do, and it's sort of what makes you different, right? So you might show them a video of the people that you help, how you accomplish your goals. If sort of maybe it's more of a warm traffic, somebody that's interacted with either your ad before or your website, maybe there's sort of a barrier for them to donate or move forward with your nonprofit, right? So maybe they know what you do, but they don't know if you can actually accomplish it, right? So maybe you help feed people in a foreign country. Well, they know that you say that you can do that, but can you actually do that? They have no reason to believe you because they've only interacted with you one time. So you might want to add some sort of, sort of trust building advertisements. So showing some sort of social proof, showing that you're actually on the ground with the people that you say that you help. How many people have you helped? What time frame will it take for you to help somebody? These sort of trust building advertisements. Again, it depends on the channel that you want to work with. But think of your prospect is a real person. What would I have to tell them to make them feel really good about working with me or donating to me? I actually have I have this silly little equation that I use to help me think of where is my user in the user journey, and then what do I have to do to make it easier for them to work with me. So I stole this from somebody else and modified it for myself, so it's not completely original. But the equation looks something like this, okay? the value proposition is chance of results times the benefit to the end user divided by the time delay of when they're going to receive the benefits and times the cost and the pain that they have to put in to work with you. That's the value equation. And then the chance to convert would be the awareness. How aware is somebody that you exist times the value, which was discussed in the first section, times friction. So how hard is it to actually engage with what you're doing? Divided by the alternatives. So how many other solutions are there for somebody to get the same thing that you're doing? Plus inaction. So what happens if they just don't do anything? Is there anything bad that actually happens? So I understand that's a little hard to visualize that on screen, and
hey, is it okay if we offer to share this with? I'm sure you have this in an image of some type that you can share with people. Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I can send a screenshot after the thing.
Awesome. So just type in so we don't send this to people who don't need it. Just type equation in the comments and we'll get it to you.
And yeah, it's it's obviously like a broad heuristic, but I find that some aspect of one of the cognitive biases or one of the marketing tricks that you've heard before, all of them can be fit squarely into some part of that equation. And if there's some reason that somebody doesn't want to work with you or donate, or they're not moving along the user funnel, it's usually because some part of that equation is a zero, right? Maybe the friction is way too high, right? They can't even find your your donor page. If the friction is super high, how is somebody going to interact with you? Maybe they're not aware, right? Awareness leads to awareness leads to quality, leads to oh man, wait, I have the oh no, I lost. Oh, here. Knowledge leads to familiarity, which leads to preference, which leads to quality. So the fact of somebody being aware of you will, by the transitive principle, will lead them to prefer your brand, right?
Yeah. So we talk mind share, right? Or wallet share, or
exactly. And if somebody isn't aware of you at all, right? If awareness is zero, then the whole rest of the equation falls apart, because if somebody has never heard of you, they're not going to donate to you. That's so it's a broad heuristic. Use it with a grain of salt, but I find it works really well. And it's better than having a list of like 10,000 different marketing principles that you need to run through every time you make any action. Just look at the equation and see like, what am I missing? So.
Okay, awesome. So folks, comment in. We've had a whole lot of interest for your equation. You may have to copyright this or trademark it or whatever it is you do.
Again, I'll say this was taken by this was taken and augmented from a YouTuber named Alex Hormozy, something like that. He's like a business marketing guy. So it's not completely original, but I have augmented it for.
So I'm going to interrupt you right there, David, because I'm going to say if I'm a nonprofit, probably of any size, and I see Sean in the comments, and I see all types of innovative people on the call, I'd want to have somebody like David having my back versus maybe one of these agencies that's going to oversell me. I've been there before, so I'm speaking from. I hope you don't hear the bitterness in my voice and the tears.
People have.
But we've gone through that where we just oversold on stuff. So you want somebody who's obsessed about this kind of stuff. But we're super grateful for like what you've been doing to help out the nonprofit sector as part of the DPP, which you just kind of joined out of sheer trust, and you've put in a ton of work into this, and I'm so excited to be able to make this happen with your help. So thanks a whole lot.
Yeah, likewise. It's been nothing but a pleasure to work with you and sort of the team of the Level Up Gaming course, which everybody in the chat right now should go and join. I talked a lot about my marketing experience, but I sort of got my start into all of this through esports and gaming. So I really believe in the space.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. You're never going to be a true thought leader if you don't talk about the metaverse every time you have a
Oh no,
chance to. So,
so far
do
away.
you think, like, okay, you're living in this digital ads world. Do you think there's a whole lot of potential in these kind of gaming communities, esports, streaming, virtual worlds that are being created? What do you think about that?
So there's a lot to break down. People say the
Hmm.
metaverse, and I think they mean, everything in the world ever that is digital. Um, so, if you're gonna talk about the viability of a channel, you sort of have to break that down and evaluate it on its own.
Okay.
In terms of like paid ads, I can't wait for the day that it becomes more normal to see, like display ads in video games and then being able to dynamically buy media through like programmatic auction. And
Oh,
then I can insert like the donor participation projects, Level Up Gaming
yeah,
ad
and Fall Guys,
into,
which is what we're playing, right?
yeah,
I've been
exactly.
preparing for the course this weekend. I've been playing a ton of Fall Guys with my kids, and imagine if we could just have a banner in there. That would be so cool.
Exactly. That'd be super cool. Advertise all over that. I think that would be awesome. And I think that when that becomes more normal and I mean, I think the reason it doesn't happen right now is because users don't want it. But when
Mhm.
it eventually becomes normal, and it will, um, that's going to be huge. So there's a huge possibility there in terms of more the community building aspect of gaming. Um, I think that's the most important thing. Uh,
I'm with you.
through working sort of in my esports club,
Hmm.
community was always number one. It was always
Well,
number one. The gaming, the competitive stuff, that was really important, but it was always number two. The reason people came to us and not to some random internet team or played by themselves was so that they could have a community of like-minded people that they share, hobbies with, and that they're close to because it was a university-based team, and
yep.
that they could come in and meet them in real life, and they'd already have a group of friends, right, that they've interacted with online. And as we see gaming building sort of, um, uh, let's see, how do I say this? Like, I guess market
Momentum.
share, well,
Yeah.
momentum, but like market share at the early stages of people's lives, the
Uh huh.
more the more it'll become important to have communities set up and sort of the infrastructure around, how do we turn sort of gaming, which can be used for good or evil, how do we turn that into a
Force for good.
valuable part of people's lives the same way I think that traditional sports has been used. And I think gaming will sort of be the traditional sports of the metaverse, whatever you think that means. That's like
Hmm.
sort of the macro thesis on that. But it does take a lot of time. But starting up now is when, you can be on the front lines of building a strong community that you actually care about. And I think that's
This is amazing.
what's super valuable. And then there's a lot of, the low-hanging fruit stuff you can cash in with, streamers and stuff, and you can tap into existing communities, and you can,
Hmm.
if you execute that properly, you can make a ton of money, a ton of donations. You can bring 1,000 people into the fold. But that's that's sort
The
of, I think,
superficial level. No, I agree
that's
with
sort
you. I'm
that's
totally
the
with
more
you.
superficial level. Yeah,
It's where we are right now, but there's just so much more. So, David, I'm in awe. Thanks so much. For anybody who wants to check this out, David will, as his availability permits, be at these sessions for the gaming fundraising course. So, if you want to chat with him there too, but we invite you to connect with him if you want to check out the DPP, join dpp.org, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you so much.
absolutely. Thank you, Lewis. And thanks
Okay.
everybody for showing up.